Hello and welcome to another Head2Head, and welcome Keith Sutherland.
Morning, Dennis.
Keith, this morning I understand the Mayor is attending a function at the Discovery Centre, still in the news, and a couple of proposals floating around out there. Where do you think it's going to go?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one. The Mayor floated the idea of families paying a levy or subsidy, whatever you'd like to call it, $99 per family, 500 families, because it's costing about $50,000 a year to run the thing. So I'm not sure that it's really going to happen, because 500 families supporting it is great, but at the end of the day there's always a maintenance, the upkeep, so I'm not sure. I think at 11:30 today there's a bit of a love-in hug and up at the Discovery Centre. Let's hope people do get behind it, because it'd be a shame to be lost, but I understand all the reasons why Bendigo Trust pulled out of it.
50,000 a year is not nothing really, it's peanuts. So you would have thought there'd be some way to try and offset some of the cost to that extent.
I've noticed that a couple of politicians have got involved in it, and Wendy Lovell from Shepparton was saying, well, state government, Jacinta Allen should be involved and the state government should come up and fund it, considering that they fund the Science Centre in Melbourne. Maybe they should be funding it, so it's probably not a core business of council, and maybe the state government needs to step in, or federal government, because they're the ones that do fund the science. There hasn't been much funding for science from federal government, so maybe that's where the funding should come from. Shouldn't be left to the locals to support it, but yeah, it'd be a shame to see it lost. But by the same token, I think your idea last week with having new technology might be the way to go for it, for a salvation.
Well, at least it's on the agenda and getting plenty of attention, I guess.
And it's good to see you're ahead of the pack by suggesting something like that too, Dennis.
Thanks, Keith.
A man of technology.
Keith, the other thing is the program we've started on Bendigo IPTv, Hello Bendigo, and we look at what's happening at the Discovery Centre, we look at the pool. There are so many areas where people got their hand out at the moment. A couple of really good community events around that program. What's been your experience with that so far? I know you've got a couple of causes you really wanted to touch on this morning to sort of highlight the way this is working in terms of connecting people in the community to make them aware of what's happening.
It was great that Kirsty on Hello Bendigo last week highlighted Millie's plight there. And so basically to see that on the front page of the Bendigo Weekly, great story from Diane Dempsey. That's just one of the fundraisers that we need the support up at the Rifle Brigade. There was another one we interviewed this morning, Chantal Morrison, with Noah's Hope fundraiser that's coming up on the 11th at the Conservatory, 11th of July that is. So there's a lot of fundraising, and it's great that Hello Bendigo can highlight some of these causes, because whilst we're highlighting some of the local artists that are appearing on the program, which is fabulous, and Cole Thompson's bringing in some terrific young talent with singers,
I was going to say that, Keith,
comedians. It's just wonderful.
Well, that's what I'm noticing is not only the events you've highlighted there, but they are community inspired and they inspire communities. So they're not just about taking from the community. They are, and I noticed in your discussion with Chantal, they're inspiring stories, and it's inspiring for the rest of the community, whether they're touched by these issues or not. Then it can't help but inspire a community to say, gee, look at these incredible people, families doing incredible things right here under our nose in Bendigo. And I think that's, to me, apart from the fact we've been able to showcase local comedians, local musicians through Cole, local martial arts, self-defence and keeping people safe on the streets and that. I love that aspect of what's happening at the moment, and I suppose the Discovery thing is another aspect of that.
I think it's great because, and full compliments to you and full marks to the rest of the crew that are putting together Hello Bendigo, because it's a great initiative. It's a variety show with lots of variety of all sorts of things, even a little bit of real estate, technology.
That's right, yeah.
And so there is a lot there for people. We hope that people do embrace it, because it takes a bit to put it together. But we are at least giving young people an opportunity. Nobody else is doing it. Bendigo IPTv at the fore of trying to help our local community, not just with local artists, but with fundraising. And we talk about what's happening at the Capitol, our new theatre. There's lots and lots of things going on. Yep.
And it's certainly, it's been interesting for me to see the impact it's had through social media. I mean, talk about lighting up social media, thanks largely to Crewy, to Peter Crewtop, for driving that. But the feedback's been enormous. And that leads me on to the other thing. The other thing with social media at the moment, that it's so alive with this marriage equality question. It's just not going to go away. The newspapers, I mean, everything's full of it at the moment, but certainly social media, the feedback on there has been incredible.
And it is, and it's driving it, because we had Jay on the program the other night, and he's on the appearing on the program Pointy End today, basically talking about having those 21 local businesses, and it's not just 21. That's now the groundswell has happened. We had 4 big businesses nationally. Now we've got 150 big businesses coming out. So the pressure's on Tony Abbott. He has to make it a stand, particularly when Christine Forster, his sister's come so strongly in favour of marriage equality.
Well, I see your old mate too, Senator Bridget McKenzie's come out and said, look, I'm in favour of a conscience vote, but I'm not personally in favour of passing this. And I say your old mate because you've had Bridget on here
and she's
the
a very
Senator
lovely
a number
lady,
of times, yeah, and enjoyed a spirited discussion. Do you think that's a reasonable response from her as a senator?
I understood on the weekend, someone told me the reasons why. Because when you're a senator, you're elected by the National Party, and to be honest, you know better than most of us, the National Party is a very conservative party that the pre-selection committee organise who the candidates are.
Baby Choice would absolutely reject that tag that he was in any way conservative.
He is most conservative like the rest of them. Anyone that's a friend of Gina, and she's very conservative, but she has to follow the party line. It was great to see Darren Chester step out of the party mould and say he's listened, he's realised that he's wrong, he now does support the marriage equality. Now there's 30 senators, members of the House, etc., from the Nationals, and one's changed ranks, and her, Bridget McKenzie's brother, Senator Bridget McKenzie's brother, was quite, I think, hostile towards her stance.
So this is it, Keith. It's causing things around dinner tables, and funnily enough, because...
As it should.
Well, you're right. An issue like this should go to the heart of families and communities, and I think it is, and that's, I guess, what's led to this discussion now with what's happening on social media. But following your discussion with Jason on during Hello Bendigo on Thursday night, it was on the Saturday that it prompted or triggered a discussion around, a discussion I was involved in with family and extended family. And it was
How did it go?
Well, it was really interesting. And in fact, I said to Jason that night, actually, in terms of our program here, how boring if we both agree on everything every time. And we do agree on a lot of things, but it helps also to play devil's advocate and put a counter view. And there are a lot of counter views out there in social media and in the press, the mainstream media as well. And it's interesting, probably the thing that provoked silence around the whole discussion, the one I was involved in, was a very vocal defence of equality of marriage, for all, regardless of sex or gender. But I remember reading somewhere, I forget who even said it now, but I put the line out there and I said, all right, well, what happens when 2 couples come up and say, well, we all love each other, we want to get married in one marriage? And no one had an answer for that. Or a guy walks up with 5 girls and says, well, look, we all love each other and we want to get married. And that's the only thing, the hurdle that no one could really get over.
Well, I can't answer that one either, so I don't know how that one works. But
well, that's what I found interesting.
It happens overseas in many places, so
yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I found interesting, Keith, and I think that's the healthy thing about the debate and the discussion that's going on. The other one that's had a lot of press and will be the subject, the discussion around coffee discussions around Bendigo, I guess, again this week, is the refugee issue and the suggestion now that's been, well, it hasn't been denied as I understand it, it's been avoided, no definitive comment or response from the government, suggesting that potentially the Abbott government or somebody involved in border security actually bribed or offered money to people smugglers to turn around and go back. And certainly that's the suggestion from the Indonesian government. Where do you see this one going? Where there's smoke, there's fire, or is it going to fizzle out?
Well, no, I thought up to yesterday, where there's smoke, there's fire. No question about it. And I thought this is a real issue because for Tony Abbott to be so strong, I've stopped the boats. Well, he stopped the boats coming to Australia. He hasn't stopped the boats. There's still people dying on the seas. There's no question about that. He's turned them around. They're going back to Indonesia. Even the Vice President has come out strongly in condemning this action, and they believe that they've got pretty a lot of proof that money was changed hands. And the Labor Party were onto it, the Greens were onto it, and then all of a sudden, now it's come out that maybe the Labor Party did something similar under the Rudd Gillard. So now the Labor Party's backtracking on the whole issue. So I was pretty adamant that it was disgusting. It's still disgusting if both sides are paying people smugglers. Why wouldn't you keep that trade going. If you're going to get paid here, you're getting paid by the people to bring them over here. You're getting paid to turn them around somewhere else. It's just creating a whole new business for people smugglers. Totally wrong. Totally wrong.
It's interesting. I guess the main focus I've seen around this one, for me anyway, relates to the relationship between Australia and Indonesia. And I think, talk about fraught with danger, and I wasn't a fan of the levels to which our government went in terms of trying to save Shannon Sukumaran in terms of the recent executions. I don't think that was appropriate for a Prime Minister to go so hard on a foreign minister against a foreign government. They had their laws in place, end of story, and I think it was almost insulting to Indonesia to belabour the point on and on and on about, well, you've got these laws, but to hell with your laws, these are our two guys and we want them back. I mean, I think that really set the tone for a pretty ugly scenario now, and this could really, if Indonesia is saying now, well, this is what Abbott's done or what Australia has done, I see a real danger in the relationship that's so critical to the security of Australia. That's the biggest worry I have.
I would agree with you on that one, because you look at our trade with China, Japan, India, Indonesia. They are really big trading partners, particularly with northern part of Australia with cattle trade to Indonesia. That could very easily stop on the basis of what's happening. And I just think Tony Abbott and the Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop, came out very strongly against Indonesia's stance on this. Even Scott Morrison, former Minister for Immigration, has also come out supporting Julie Bishop's stand on it. So I think there could be a big flare-up here, and I think it's unnecessary. They have to come clean and tell the truth, as does Labor. If Labor did pay money, I think that it's a criminal act and they should be held to be account. However, it's probably some government official, if it has been paid. I make that point, if it has been paid. And I've got a pretty strong suspicion it has from all the reports, but everyone, both Dutton and Bishop, denied it categorically last week. They had the opportunity to deny it categorically in Parliament yesterday. Neither of them did it. So, but then Bill Shorten's gone quiet on the issue too. So who knows? How that's happened. So that's really that's put the cat among the pigeons, because I just thought it was an immoral act if we're paying people smugglers to turn it back. Some high official from Australia has said, well, it's cheaper to do that than have them come here. But at the end of the day, the billions of dollars that we're wasting on having immigration camps offshore in Manus Island and Nauru is a disgrace. And Julian Triggs last night talking about it, and Bronwyn Bishop, it was another disgrace, as the most terrible speaker this country's ever had. I couldn't even watch Q&A last night listening to her comments, calling for Julian Triggs.
I reckon I heard your blood pressure rising from where I am, a couple of blocks away.
I had to turn it off because I couldn't stand it.
And talking of those sorts of emotive reactions to what's seen on television, I guess, tonight, will you be watching World's Ugliest Cage Fighters, or will you tune into the Gillard Rudd documentary?
I'll be tuning into the Gillard Rudd, and it's been really interesting.
The violence doesn't worry you, not the suggestion of violence?
Sarah Ferguson, who I consider is probably one of the best journalists in this country, without a doubt. And it's really been interesting to me because she's shown Kevin Rudd in a very good light, Julia Gillard in not such a good light. And it'll be interesting tonight that from the shorts we saw this morning, it's just whetting our appetite, that maybe, and Julia did obviously allege to Kevin Rudd that he had her support, and that may not have been the case. She's admitted to it tonight that she did lead him believe that there was support for him, and then the next thing that wasn't. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So there's bloodletting there for sure.
You think Bill Shorten's got his hands full at the moment? The suggestion of I think it's the TWU when he was involved back there, and that potentially he may well have known that employers were paying membership dues for union members. This has been very convenient for him because it suddenly pushed him off the front page in that area, and everyone's talking, in terms of Labor anyway, they're talking about Gillard Rudd. So who would have thought there's still fire in the belly for these two, and to see them slugging it out like this, it's fascinating to see two former Prime Ministers speaking so candidly about personal one-on-one discussions they had and the machinations that go on behind the closed doors in Canberra. I have to say, the dirtier it gets, not the least bit surprising to me. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh my God, I wouldn't have believed that would happen. nothing surprises me up there anymore. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see just what does flow out of it though.
Well, my scenario is this, Dennis, and this will surprise you, that out of all this, and we've been seen to be having paid the people smugglers, so Tony Abbott's head should roll. Bill Shorten will come out with egg on his face for what he's done in that union movement, maybe in the past. His head should roll, and then we get a clear new leaders of the Labor and Liberal, and we can start again, because both of them lack vision, both of them lack any credibility. And from my point of view, it'd be lovely to see two new leaders there. Fresh air going to the next election, and it's got to be the young guns of both parties, not the deputy leaders, etc.
That's an
as much as I love
Tanya
Plebiscite, I think that there should be young ones, and it shouldn't be Julie Bishop, it shouldn't be Malcolm Turnbull. There should be new breed of people in there. So we get back to Australian politics to try and rise above the horizon, because it's been gutter politics for something like 5 years, and Tony Abbott started that when in opposition, and Bill Shorten really hasn't been much better in opposition now.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
It would be nice to have a...
I know that probably shocks you.
No. It's comforting in a way, because I think a breath of fresh air and a fresh start, and it's not like it was the end of the world for Plibisek or Shorten or Abbott or Hockey for that matter. As Joe said himself, it's as easy for them to just ride off to the sunset to the Centrelink, make sure they hook into a really well-paid job, go and see a friendly bank and get extend the mortgage a bit, so that it's not like the door would shut for them. One door closes, another one opens. So
we just need a fresh approach in this country.
Absolutely. Keith, thanks so much again for taking the time this morning. It's always interesting and entertaining to catch up and share our views, our diverse views, I guess, on so many issues.
Very much diverse, yes.
That people talk about here in Bendigo, just having a coffee. So thanks again for the time.
Thanks, Dennis.
And we'll see you again next week, where we like to kick around what's happening on the national stage and certainly what's happening here in our community.